Welcome back to the Veil Echo, where truth hides behind shadows and every whisper carries a secret. Tonight, we travel deep into the heart of rural Japan to a place where time stood still and peace masked something far darker. The story begins in a quiet suburban neighborhood at dusk. The orange sky fades behind rows of modest Japanese homes, the sound of cicadas echoing through the still air. It's here where life seemed gentle and predictable that the Kato family lived ordinary, kind, and beloved by their neighbors. Their traditional wooden house stood at the edge of town, surrounded by whispering trees and the soft glow of paper lanterns. To anyone passing by, it was a portrait of serenity. But within those walls, fate had already begun to weave its silent threads. A nameplate by the door read Kato Family. Every visitor remembered the warm greetings, the laughter of children echoing through the garden, and the faint smell of home-cooked meals. Yet, as the sun dipped below the horizon, something shifted. The air grew colder, the neighborhood quieter, as if the night itself was holding its breath. Inside the Kato home, the evening unfolded like any other. The family gathered around a low wooden table, sharing dinner, their laughter blending with the faint hum of the rain beginning to fall outside. A family portrait on the wall captured their happiness, smiling parents, two bright-eyed children frozen in time. No one could have imagined that this would be the last image of them together. As darkness deepened, the streets emptied. Raindrops traced paths down the windows, and the warm light from the Kato house flickered against the mist. A stray cat darted across the road, startled by a sudden sound, a distant thud, or maybe the slam of a door. The neighborhood, once calm, felt strangely tense, as though the shadows had begun to move on their own. By midnight, the rain poured harder. Neighbors peeked through their curtains, noticing the faint light still glowing inside the Kato home. Some said they heard muffled voices. Others claimed they saw a shadow pass by the window, too tall, too still to belong to anyone in the family, but no one dared to check. The next morning, the sky was pale and heavy with fog. The streets were empty, silent except for the dripping of rain from the rooftops. The Kato house stood quiet. The door was slightly open. The once warm home now seemed colder, almost hollow, and within those walls the ordinary had turned into something unexplainable. This was the calm before the storm, the last breath of peace before Japan's darkest unsolved mystery took hold. The Kato family, so full of life the night before, would soon vanish without a trace, and from that moment on their name would echo through generations, whispered beneath lanterns, haunting the silence of that forgotten street. Because in Japan, where spirits are said to linger, some homes never truly rest, and the Kato house was one of them. Rain hammered against the narrow streets as police sirens pierced the silence. What was once a peaceful corner of the Japanese countryside had turned into a scene of confusion and dread. The Kato house, once filled with laughter and warmth, was now surrounded by flashing red and blue lights, the echo of footsteps and whispers replacing the sounds of a normal morning. When officers arrived, the front door stood half open, swaying gently in the wind. Inside, everything seemed frozen in time. Half-eaten food sat on the dining table, tea still in the cups, and the television quietly playing static. There were no signs of a struggle, yet the atmosphere felt heavy, charged with something unseen. Detectives carefully stepped inside, their flashlights cutting through the dim light. A trail of water led from the entrance to the tatami room where the family usually gathered. On the floor, faint stains shimmered beneath the flashlight beams, blood smeared and half-wiped as if someone had tried to erase what had happened. A broken window rattled in the wind, raindrops spilling onto the floorboards. Fingerprints glistened faintly on the glass, too distorted to identify. The house spoke in whispers, creaking floors, dripping water, the rustle of curtains in the storm. Every sound seemed to tell a story of panic and fear. In the kitchen, a bowl of rice was still warm. On the counter lay a torn piece of paper, part of a handwritten note, its edges burned. The words that remained were chilling: "We can't stay." As the investigation unfolded, the scene became a puzzle of contradictions. No valuables were missing, no signs of forced entry, and yet something terrible had occurred. The neighbors were questioned, one claimed to have heard shouting, another swore they saw a shadow moving past the window around midnight, but none could describe what they saw clearly. The rain and darkness had blurred everything together. By the next day, the news had spread like wildfire. Headlines screamed across the country: "The Kato family vanishes overnight." Crowds gathered behind yellow tape, journalists fighting to catch a glimpse of the mysterious home. Cameras flashed as officers carried out bags of evidence, blood samples, burned notes, and a small child's shoe found near the back garden. Inside the police station, a detective named Nakamura stared at the growing evidence board. Photographs of the family, maps of the area, and lines of red string connected fragments of information, but every connection led to another dead end. The Kato case was turning into a maze of shadows. Days turned to weeks. Search teams combed through forests and riverbanks, uncovering nothing but silence. An abandoned car was later discovered miles away, hidden deep within the woods, its doors unlocked, the seats damp from rain. Inside lay a single family photo folded neatly on the dashboard. Something had taken the Kato family from their home that night, something beyond explanation, something that didn't leave footprints. And as the rain continued to fall over that quiet Japanese town, the whispers grew louder. Some said the house itself had swallowed them whole. Others believed they had simply vanished into the dark. But one truth remained certain. The night the Kato family disappeared, peace left that village forever. Years passed, but the mystery of the Kato family refused to fade. The old house still stood, its wooden walls warped and covered in ivy, windows shattered like forgotten memories. Locals avoided the road that led there. Children whispered dares, and elders crossed themselves when passing by, murmuring that the spirits of the Kato family still wandered inside, waiting for the truth to be heard. Detective Nakamura never let go of the case. Though time had aged him, his obsession with the Kato disappearance grew heavier with every unanswered question. He often found himself sitting in his dimly lit office, cigarette smoke curling into the air. The walls lined with yellowed case files and faded photographs. The board before him was a chaotic web, notes, maps, old newspaper clippings, all pointing to nowhere. Yet something deep inside told him the story wasn't over. Decades later, a new investigation began. A young detective, driven by curiosity and haunted by the legend, reopened the Kato file. Technology had advanced, but the questions remained the same. The digital glow of computer screens illuminated old evidence now scanned and reanalyzed, fingerprints, photographs, and that half-burned note. Artificial intelligence reconstructed the missing handwriting, revealing a chilling phrase: "They're watching us." That single clue reignited the case. The new team retraced every step, every shadow. Satellite images showed an abandoned car buried in thick forest growth, rusted and untouched since it was found. When forensic drones scanned the area, they discovered remnants of personal belongings scattered along the riverbank: a child's shoe, a locket engraved with the name Ayakato, and an old camera. Inside the camera's corroded film was one final image, a blurry photograph of a figure standing outside the Kato home on the night of the storm. Who took the picture, and who was the shadow in the frame? As modern investigators pieced together digital reconstructions, strange coincidences emerged. Locals reported power outages whenever the old Kato house was mentioned. Drones malfunctioned near its perimeter. Some claimed to see faces in the windows, fleeting and pale. The air around the home seemed colder than the rest of the town. Even the forest that surrounded it remained unnaturally silent, as if time itself avoided that place. In one of the most haunting moments of the investigation, the young detective discovered Nakamura's old journal, hidden behind a false panel in the police archives. Inside were sketches of the Kato family and a chilling confession: "I found something in the house that night, but I couldn't tell anyone. It wasn't human." The words blurred under tears and time, but their weight lingered. Whatever happened that night wasn't just a crime, it was something darker, something that defied human logic. Today, the Kato residence stands untouched, swallowed by nature, but locals say that on rainy nights lights still flicker inside. Some hear faint laughter, others hear cries, and if you listen closely between the thunder and the wind, you might still hear it, the whisper of a family lost to shadows. Because some mysteries in Japan aren't meant to be solved, they're meant to be remembered.